The fog hung low over Hollow Creek as Emma Blake's van rumbled along the narrow forest road. Every twist and turn seemed to pull her deeper into the unknown, the skeletal trees forming looming arches that swayed in the windless night. She adjusted the camera mounted on her dashboard, its red recording light reflecting her tense expression. Tonight, she wasn't just chasing stories, she was stepping into a place no one had dared to explore for decades. The Hollow Creek Manor had been abandoned since the 1920s, its walls rumored to echo with the cries of those who vanished inside. Local tales spoke of a caretaker who went mad, of children who were never seen again, and of lights flickering in empty windows. Emma's research was meticulous. She had pored over every newspaper clipping, every diary fragment, every faded photograph she could find. But no preparation could have readied her for the oppressive presence waiting beyond the wrought iron gates. As the van creaked to a stop, the fog seemed to thicken, swallowing the vehicle in a soft, suffocating gray. Emma stepped out, her boots sinking slightly into the damp earth. The path to the manor was littered with rotting leaves, each step releasing a faint, musty aroma that made her stomach tighten. She felt the pull of something unseen, a weight pressing against her chest, almost as if the house itself exhaled a warning. She motioned to her crew to follow, their flashlights piercing narrow beams through the fog. The gates, twisted with rust and overgrown ivy, groaned as they pushed them open. Emma felt a shiver run down her spine, the sound of the metal scraping against stone echoing through the still night. She wondered if the manor was listening. Once inside the property, the grand silhouette of the house loomed ahead, its windows dark, some shattered, some clouded with decades of grime. The front door, heavy and carved with ornate designs that had dulled over time, stood slightly ajar, as though inviting them in. Emma's hand hovered over the handle, her breath visible in the chill that seemed to seep from the walls themselves. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" whispered Tom, the cameraman, his voice tight with unease. Emma forced a smile, though her own heart raced. "If we want the story, we have to go in," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "Stay close, and don't touch anything unnecessary." As they entered, the door creaked ominously, and the stale air of decades hit them like a wave. Dust motes floated in the flashlight beams, and the faint smell of decay filled every corner. The grand foyer stretched out before them, a cavernous space filled with shattered furniture, tattered curtains, and the faint echo of something that wasn't quite silence. Emma's boots echoed on the creaking wooden floor as she moved deeper into the manor. Every step seemed to stir the shadows, which clung to the corners like living things. Whispers threaded through the air, soft and unintelligible, yet unmistakably present. The crew followed, exchanging nervous glances, each sound amplified in the cavernous interior. In the hallway, an old mirror caught Emma's reflection, or so she thought. For a moment, she saw movement behind her, a figure that dissolved the instant she turned. Tom gasped beside her. "Did you see that?" he asked. Emma nodded, swallowing her fear. "Something's here," she said softly, "and it's aware of us." They continued through the manor, room by room. The dining hall was littered with broken plates and rotted furniture, the chandelier hanging precariously, swaying slightly though there was no breeze. On the wall, faded portraits of unknown faces stared down, eyes glinting eerily in the flashlight's glow. Each frame seemed to shift subtly when she wasn't looking, like the manor itself was breathing. Emma set up a small recording station in what appeared to be a sitting room. As the crew prepared their equipment, a faint, childlike giggle echoed from. Then, without warning, a door slammed somewhere deep in the house. The sound ricocheted through the halls, a heavy, resonant thud that seemed to vibrate in their bones. Tom's flashlight flickered. Emma's heart pounded as she turned to see a shadow glide across the far wall. She could feel it watching, studying, waiting. Every instinct screamed at her to leave, but curiosity rooted her to the spot. She knew the stories of Hollow Creek Manor were terrifying, but the reality was something else entirely, more oppressive, more sentient. The manor wasn't just haunted, it was alive in a way that defied understanding, a living memory of every scream, every whispered secret, every soul it had trapped. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. Whispers grew louder, brushing against the edges of comprehension. Objects shifted slightly, a chair moved, a curtain fluttered without wind, a picture frame tilted as if nudged by an invisible hand. The crew began recording fervently, their fear tempered by the thrill of capturing something real, something unseen by the outside world. At midnight, Emma reached the top of the main staircase. The fog from the forest outside had crept in through broken windows, curling along the floor like living tendrils. She paused at the landing, feeling an icy draft against her neck. The whispers coalesced, forming words she almost understood. Leave. Stay. Watch. Suddenly, a floorboard creaked behind her. She spun, flashlight cutting a path through the darkness. Nothing. Just the heavy silence of the manor. She exhaled shakily and pressed forward, leading the crew down a long corridor lined with doors, each one seemingly identical, each one hiding untold secrets. By the time they reached what appeared to be a nursery, the temperature had dropped sharply. Their breath formed clouds in the air. Cradles rocked slightly, though the wind was still non-existent. A music box in the corner played a faint, warped tune. Emma's recorder picked it up, a melody that had. By 2:30 a.m., they had mapped the main floor, but Emma felt the manor's gaze stretching beyond the visible. She knew there were rooms that had not been entered for decades, rooms that were forbidden even in legend. Somewhere in the darkness, a figure watched, unseen but undeniably present. She could feel its patience, a malevolent intelligence measuring their every move. As dawn threatened to break, Emma set her camera to record a panoramic sweep of the main hall. Dust floated in the light of the early sun, revealing shapes that had been hidden in the gloom. For a brief moment, she thought she saw the faces of those long gone, pressed against the glass, staring out, screaming silently. Then the light shifted, and they were gone. She whispered to the crew, "We're not alone here." Not in the slightest. A sudden, deafening crash came from the west wing, and the building seemed to shudder. The whispers intensified, now layered with laughter, crying, and something else, something inhuman. Emma's heart raced. They had entered a house that refused to be forgotten. And it was making sure they knew it. The sun had long disappeared behind the thick forest, and the manor had fully embraced the darkness. Emma and her crew, though exhausted, pressed on, drawn deeper into the building's labyrinthine halls. Each step carried the echo of unseen things, and every corner seemed to stretch farther than physics allowed. They reached a narrow hallway lined with doors, their paint peeling and hinges rusted. The air was colder here, so frigid that their breaths hung like mist. Whispers began to swirl, more pronounced than before, threading together into faint words that Emma could almost comprehend. Leave. Watch. Join. A sudden slam from behind made them jump. Tom's flashlight swung wildly, catching the faint outline of a figure at the far end of the hall, a girl, no older than 12, pale, with hollow eyes that seemed to stare straight through them. Then, in an instant, she was gone. Emma froze, heart hammering. Did anyone else? She began, but a low, guttural laugh cut her off. It reverberated through the walls, surrounding them, pressing against their ears. The sound was both human and not, playful yet horrifying. As they cautiously moved forward, a door at the end of the hallway creaked open. Inside, the remnants of a nursery lay in decay, cracked cradles, tattered toys, and a small, warped music box spinning on its side. Emma approached it, feeling the weight of invisible eyes upon her. The music, warped and uneven, seemed to call her name. Emma. Back off, she whispered to her crew. But even as she spoke, a shadow flitted across the wall behind her. The room's corners seemed to deepen into darkness, stretching beyond comprehension, and the whispers grew louder, now overlapping into a cacophony of pleading, laughter, and sorrow. One of the crew, Mark, let out a scream as the temperature plummeted further. Frost formed on the furniture, and the air felt like it was moving, shaping itself around them. Objects began to shift, teddy bears tumbling from shelves, the music box spinning faster on its own, rocking cradles moving as though touched by unseen hands. Emma's pulse raced, but she tried to maintain control. Keep recording. Every moment counts. We need proof. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying her fear, but determination kept her moving forward. They stepped deeper into the nursery, and the whispers coalesced into clearer phrases. Stay, forever, join us. Then, the small girl appeared again, standing silently by a cracked window. Her lips moved, forming words no human could speak, yet Emma understood them, follow me. Against her better judgment, Emma took a step toward her. The girl vanished, leaving only the echo of her voice. At the same instant, the door behind them slammed shut with a force that shook the room. The crew rushed to open it, but the handle wouldn't budge. Panic set in. Shadows began to crawl along the walls, taking shapes that resembled people, faces contorted in fear, eyes hollow, mouths screaming silently. Emma felt herself being pulled toward the center of the room, as if an invisible hand gripped her heart. She struggled, breathing ragged, knowing this was the first true test of the Manor's will. A cold gust of wind extinguished their flashlights, plunging them into darkness. The whispers became deafening, now directly in their ears, almost physical, vibrating through their skulls. Emma could feel her mind bending, memories twisting, and reality blurring. Through the darkness, she saw a faint glow, like lanterns floating just above the floor. They hovered in a line, moving deeper into the Manor, and she felt an irresistible pull. The girl's voice echoed again, this way. Emma gritted her teeth. We follow carefully. Stay together. Her crew nodded, thug. As they approached the west wing, the temperature plummeted further. Frost formed intricate patterns on the walls, curling like claws. The whispers intensified, overlapping in a symphony of despair, laughter, and malevolence. Every step forward felt like stepping into the core of the Manor's consciousness. Then, in the distance, a door creaked open slowly, revealing a faintly lit room. Inside, silhouettes moved with purpose, figures from different eras, children, servants, and an ominous adult form, all frozen in perpetual action. The air vibrated with their combined presence. Emma realized the Manor's full truth, it wasn't just a building. It was a living archive of souls, feeding on fear, curiosity, and the living alike. The girl appeared once more, beckoning from the room. Emma swallowed her fear. We document everything, she whispered. No matter what happens, this is the story we came for. The crew steadied themselves, gripping cameras and flashlights, following her into the unknown. Behind them, the door slammed shut again, locking them inside. The whispers rose to a deafening crescendo, and the shadows converged. Emma's heart pounded like a drum in her chest. She knew this was only the beginning, the Manor had them, and it would not let go without revealing all its secrets, no matter how horrifying. Emma and her crew had descended into the deepest wing of the Manor, where light no longer reached and the whispers became screams. Every step seemed heavier, as if the air itself resisted their movement. The walls pulsed faintly, like veins carrying something ancient and malignant. In the heart of the Manor, they found the Grand Hall, a room larger than any building should contain. Portraits lined the walls, staring with eyes that followed their every move. The floor was littered with objects from decades, centuries of lives forgotten. And in the center, the source of the whispers, a massive mirror, blackened and cracked, yet somehow reflecting not their own images, but past horrors. Emma stepped closer, compelled against her own fear. The girl appeared again, transparent now, holding a lantern. She beckoned, voice echoing, see, know, remember. As Emma looked into the mirror, memories not her own flooded her mind, children screaming, caretakers whispering promises, families trapped in cycles of terror. The Manor was not just haunted, it fed on attention, on curiosity, on the living, pulling their very essence into its archive. Suddenly, the whispers coalesced into one voice, join us, or leave, but never forget. Emma's heart raced, the room spinning. Shadows crawled from the walls, forming hands that reached for them. The crew panicked, running for the doors, but the manor shifted, halls twisting impossibly. Every exit led back to the grand hall. Desperation hit. Emma realized there was no escape, only acceptance or resistance. With a trembling hand, she touched the mirror. The cold burned through her skin. The manor's voice filled her mind entirely, revealing secrets, sorrow, rage, and endless cycles of entrapment. For a moment, she understood everything. The manor remembered every soul, every fear, every whisper. Her crew screamed, trying to pull her away, but the mansion's grip was absolute. The girl's lantern flickered, illuminating faces in the shadows, lost souls, silent watchers, waiting for new arrivals. Emma turned to them, whispering, "Document everything, we can't let it stay forgotten." Then the manor exhaled, and reality warped. Time fractured. Shadows merged with the living. When the fog outside Hollow Creek Manor finally lifted at dawn, Emma and her crew were found on the forest path, cameras rolling, faces pale, eyes wide with terror, but alive. No one would believe the recordings. The whispers on the tapes were incomprehensible, and the footage showed things that defied logic. Yet Emma knew the truth, seared into her mind forever. The manor remembered them, and it would always wait, patiently, for the next curious souls. As they walked away, the manor stood silent, black windows reflecting the morning light. But in one corner, a faint lantern flickered. The whispers began again, soft, patient, eternal.